A cold night in southern Sweden, in March 1889. She woke up with a thud, familiar hands grasping at her neck, and it all went quiet and black as she drifted away. Den arma kvinnans tårar och böner rörde dem alls intet. That is an inscription upon a tombstone here in Sweden. And it's very, very fitting for this tragic and sad case. But it's also the most scandalous one. The news frenzy that followed must have had many a lady swooning on their designated swooning couches. So hold on to your little top hat and let's get into it. The wild ride of the Yngsjö-Murder. Welcome to Morbid History, where we discuss everything dark and macabre from our terrifying past. And this is a story involving way too much that shouldn't have happened. Manipulative husbands, manipulative mother-in-laws that are basically just the devil, fornication amongst family members. The case delivered on way too many fronts. And the last woman to be executed in Sweden, and also how that execution went to heck. It did not at all go to plan. Let's just put it like that. It's one heck of a story, and I'm gonna unwrap it all for you now.
Every job must be carefully analyzed.
So, this all took place in the southernest parts of Sweden in a small village called Yngsjö. And our main characters are the mother, Anna Månsdotter, her son, Per Nilsson, and his wife-to-be, Anna Johansdotter. But before we get into the meat of it, some backstory. Anna was born in 1841. She was described as quite attractive for the time, but beyond her first attractive visage, she was known to be very stern, mean, borderlining on evil. Either way, when she was only 19, or I guess that's normal then, when she was 19, she married a bit older man who had just bought a farm in Yngsjö. His name was Nils Nilsson. They settled down on the farm, the Yngsjö farm, and had 3 children. Sadly, only one of these children would survive into adulthood, and that was Per Nilsson. Everything was just moving on along until the father, Nils Nilsson, perished in his 50s by tuberculosis, leaving Anna Månsdotter and her son Per alone at the farm. We can, without exaggeration, say that the local villagers all took a wide berth to avoid Anna. No one liked her and she had no friends. On the other side of the spectrum, her son Per was very well liked. He was seen as a good-natured young boy, tall, handsome, and friendly. But it did not take long for gossip to start swirling a bit in the little town of Yngsjö. People were saying that mother and son were sharing a bed. Anna bit back by stating that she had a phobia of the dark, and that is the only reason why her son was sharing her bed. She was super duper scared, couldn't handle it, so Per had to share her bed. Okay? But the gossip just didn't want to die out, and also their cash was starting to simmer out a bit. That's when Anna decided that it was time to get Per a wife. A much needed influx of extra working hands and hopefully a bit of cash. And also, as an added plus, it might just get those gossips around town to stop talking. But as you can imagine, with the reputation of Anna, even though Per was a catch with his farm, with his looks and nice heart, no woman close to them or close to Yngsjö, well, they just avoided that family like the plague. Marrying into that would not be a good look for anyone, and also having the devil in the form of your mother-in-law didn't sound fun at all for anyone. That's when they decided to go looking further away, so far that they would find someone who hadn't heard of the rumors and of everything else. And finally they did, and it was a perfect catch for them. It was a very pretty young loving woman called Anna Månsdotter. They were from a very well-respected family and they had their money of their own. Per went there and Anna was quite smitten from the start. There's letters that she wrote to her friends that she accepted the proposal at once, how he was so tall and handsome and articulate and seemed, yay, perfect for her. The only problem was that Hannah's father wouldn't accept the marriage before he could go and visit the farm and look at it for himself. Mostly formalities, of course. And it was there they hit a little snag. 'Cause they met Anna Månsdotter, the mother. And after doing that and realizing what a headache she was, Hannah basically ghosted Per. But Per did not give up easily. He wrote passionate, poetic letters to Hannah, trying to win her back. In one of Per's letters, he writes as thus. I'll put a translation here. Yngsjö den 14 juli 88. Dyra Hanna, ömt och av hjärtat älskade vän, en härlig sommardag har ingått, hela trakten strålar i förnyad fägring. Nu som alltid är du min första tanke vid allt skönt som jag skådar. Allt påminner mig om dig, det är så glättigt och gott att påminna mig av din själ, älskade Hanna. Ack, snart hoppas jag skall även en morgon randas, då jag får sluta dig i min famn för att blicka in i dina ögon och från dina läppar höra bekräftelsen på min lycka, att du är min, för evigt min. Ja, jag vill högerligen försäkra att jag ingen kvinna i världen ska älska så högt som dig. Ja, du är min utkorade brud. And he ends it with, Du är min, ty hoppet talar, hjärtat drömmer bara om dig. Minnets ljuva näktergalar, sjunga blott om dig. Du blir min, i saknans smärta, säger hoppet, du blir min. Och som gensvar i mitt hjärta svaras evigt, jag är din. Per Nilsson. And after sending her all these proclamations of love, he also states in a letter that he will come and visit her in a fortnight, which he does, and during that visitation they come to an agreement. They agree that Anna, Per's mother, has to move to her mother. That would mean that Hanna och Per could live by themselves without interruption of the crazy mother-in-law. Hearing that reassurance, Hanna decided to accept again. And the marriage was on. And in 1888, Hanna and Per finally got married. And they moved in to the Yngsjö farm, and Anna, the mother, moved to her mother. But she didn't stay there long. No. She would come by like she owned the place, just barging in and scolding Hanna for every little thing she could think of. Per wasn't much of a help. He would just stand by and do absolutely nothing while Hanna was being abused. He showed zero of the love and affection he had promised in his letters. Quite opposite, he was cold, and they didn't even consummate their marriage. They would sleep in the same bed, but didn't touch each other, didn't even kiss. Hanna was leading a miserable life there on the farm. In one of her letters to her father, she would say, "Please come and help me, come rescue me. I cry every day, I cry every night. I cry so much, I fear I'll die from all my crying." Hanna's father, not actually seeing the big impact it actually had on his daughter, just told her to stay and stick it out and that all would be fine in the end. He would put some pressure on Per to remove Anna from their farm. But yeah, nothing helped. The abuse of poor Hanna just continued. She was being treated more like a servant or a slave, and nothing she did was good enough. She was pining for some affection from her husband. At one point, she actually went to a wise woman who gave her some spell that she would place on the pillow that Per slept on, and it would be like a love spell. That's how desperate she was. But to no avail. Hanna started seeing signs that Anna was acting almost a bit jealous, like a scorned ex-lover, whenever she and Per and Anna were in the same room. All of these things put together finally put a nail in the coffin. Hanna decided that she would escape back to her parents. She went to a local neighbor. Everyone around Yngsjö actually really liked and sympathized with Hanna, so they were very helpful when she came up to them and asked if they could come the next morning and pick her up and escort her to her parents. The friendly neighbor complied and said that I'll be by the farm tomorrow early morning and pick you up. That was that fateful cold day in March 1889. The next day, when the neighbor arrived with his little carriage and knocked on the door, Hannah did not open. Instead, Per did. The neighbor asked where Hannah was, because they were supposed to meet up. Per just replied, I have no idea, she left early in the morning from bed and I haven't seen her since. The neighbor, getting a bit suspicious, asked if he could go look for her, and Per complied. They stepped into the farmhouse, and it didn't take long until they found a little... What are those called? The doors in the floor that go to the cellar. Well, that door was wide open, and they looked down and saw the body of a female, and the female was obviously, at the very least, hurt down there. And the sight of it got the friendly neighbor to scream out extremely loud, apparently, because it alerted many other neighbors and villagers that came running. Per and the neighbor went down and took Hannah, of course, up. They saw that she had some kind of head trauma. She was fully dressed, and Per, in an apathetic try to display emotions, exclaimed, "Oh no! She's dead!" At least that's what the court documents say. No one saw real feelings from him during the discovery, and he said, "Oh, she must have gone when it was dark and slipped and hit her head, and now she's dead. Yeeted herself down the stairs." Obviously, the villagers and the neighbor were a bit on the fence on that one, knowing the history of the family. So they decided to call the authorities, the police force, and have an autopsy done. Which was a great idea, because that's when they noticed that Hannah had not only a blow to the head, her throat had signs of trauma too. And they put down cause of death as forceful taking of her breath, her oxygen, and concluded that someone must have thrown her down the stairs. Of course, Per and his mother were taken into questioning. Per actually quite quickly confessed. He said he did it by himself because he regretted the marriage. He was not in love with Hannah. He wanted to marry some other lady. And when they questioned that lady, she didn't even know who he was. Strange. And he just came up with, like, I hit her in the head, I strangled her, I threw her down to make it look like an accident. I did it. It was me. All me. For some reason or another, people did not quite believe him. It seemed a bit out of character. A pretty little bow would be both of their downfalls. The thing was that when Hannah was found, back in those days, you had these thigh-high socks, and you would make them stay up by wrapping a ribbon around them, and the ribbon was tied in a very specific kind of not. And they asked Per to replicate it, and he tried and tried and tried, and he just couldn't at all. And then they asked Anna, and she could do it perfectly, which put her on the crime scene. The truth would very soon come to light, and it was a lot of truth. They did not ask for this much truth, but they got it in buckets. So after much deliberation, and the authorities came up with oh dear, cat. She's baking cookies on a chair over there. Are you done? Thank you. Do you want to go out? Oh my god, I'll have to re-record this 1,000 times. Yeah. Moving on. So, when the authorities finally came to a probable sequence of events during that night, they think that both Per and Anna were in on it. They believe that Hannah had somehow caught them two in a act that was very and is still very illegal. The recording somehow disappeared here, but what I wanted to say with this is that this was of course seen as a motive. When everything had finally come to light, both of them confessed. There wasn't much else to do. Per tried his utmost to take the blame anyway and tell them to let his mother go, and he would take full responsibility of what happened. Anna started confessing that she had started planning this a few months maybe before it happened. She could not stand the thought of Per living together with a younger, more attractive wife, and she had actually made Per promise never to touch her or consummate their marriage. Hence why Per was so cold to Hannah. Beyond that, authorities put together a probable sequence of events, but we can't be sure. They think that in the middle of the night, Per went up and hit Hannah while she was sleeping with a large piece of wood, and then Anna sat upon her and removed her air supply, and then they together put her clothes on before throwing her, poor Hannah, down into the cellar to make it look like an accident. So now they not only had life cancellation subscription case on their hands, they also had that incest thrown in there. They did it so that their reputation wouldn't get ruined, like they already had a great one to start with. They were both sentenced to that thing where they go to the Valley of the Mist. Many of the townspeople of Yngsjö, though, saw Per in a different light, and they protested and sent in a plea for a pardon, that he had been manipulated by his mother and would never have done something so vile and terrible if it wasn't for his codependency with his deranged mother. And yeah, he was actually spared the demise sentence and was instead placed in, what's it called? A workhouse. Kinda like prison. Yeah, you work. They work there. Yeah. But Anna, as we said, still got her sentence as the last woman to be executed in Swedish history. And this execution is also known for being a very bad one. The executioner, when he tried to hit her with the axe, Anna got some kind of reaction and moved her head, and it went through her cheek and parted this part like here. So this part and tongue was still stuck to her nether part. There's a mask, so this is not her real head. Please YouTube, this is just a mask of her and how she looked like after the fact. She wasn't even 50 when the execution took place in 1890, August. The executioner even had to try 3 times before completely removing her. And then Per, who was sentenced to life of hard labor instead of the axe, he was pardoned after 23 years and moved back to Yngsjö, of all places. Not much else is known about his life after being released, or why he decided to return to the village of his crime. It's said that in his later years he would be seen visiting Anna Månsdotter's grave. Maybe some kind of pang of guilt. So that was the scandalous story of Anna Månsdotter, the murderer, Per Nilsson, her son, also the murderer, and the poor woman Anna Månsdotter, who was manipulated, gaslit into this terrible situation she just couldn't escape. Yeah, rest in peace, Anna Månsdotter. Hi, and thank you so much if you made it this far. Why not leave a little like, subscribe, and hit the bell, and help with the algorithm boosting, which is a very hard thing here on this platform, even though I love it so. And also, if you made it this far through the rambles, let me know down below what's your favorite historical true crime. I'm interested and I'm gonna look into it. Either way, giant thanks for being here. It means so much to me, and even more giant thanks to my lovely Patreons. It's thanks to you that I'm able to be here, buy my editing software and effects and all that. I wouldn't be able to do it at all if not for you. So thanks a lot. You're my heroes. All the love. And mwah, kisses, and stay amazing, stay hydrated, and most of all, stay morbid, and I'll see you very soon. Bye bye!